Hello, welcome to the Scream for Peace show. Today we are broadcasting live from deep inside the mission at the super secret headquarters of Radio Valencia. And we got some outgoing DJs that just made a comment about our show, about the 13th dimension, because 12 just ain't enough. And usually 12 is enough. In this case, it is not. And but I just want to do a quick explanation of what that is. And if you go to our website, you'll find some graphs under the topology section. But this show is an exploration into the nature of reality and how consciousness works on an individual and collective basis. And so the 13th dimension that you hear when we mention that is a very specific scientific theory, and it has to do with particularly M theory, superstring theory, and multi-dimensional reality. So in my perspective of how the consciousness works systemically is there are 10 spatial dimensions. You've heard the 3 dimensions, right? 2 dimensions is a flat surface. 3 dimensions is 3-dimensional objects, height, width, and depth. What's the 4th dimension?
Marijuana.
That's the 8th, come on.
That's number 1 as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's so we got 10 spatial dimensions, and then there's consciousness, time, and we are sitting at the center of all of that as the 13th dimension. So we are all the 13th dimension of our own universe.
Is that our collective?
No, the 13th dimension is actually you as an individual. And then that's surrounded by 10 spatial dimensions. So imagine you were sitting in the middle of a giant energy ball.
Gotcha.
And there was that energy ball was cut into 10 different cones, spherical cones, and wrapping those cones was this thing called consciousness, and time was wrapped in all those, and then we would be at the center of that. That's the 13th.
Aslan, you're freaking me out, man. I'm frightened now. I'm scared.
This is Monday morning science talk. And but I just thought I'd give you that brief explanation of what the intro meant. There was a specific, because it's not 12, it's not 14, it is definitely 13.
The unlucky dimension?
Talking about 5 minutes of beer drinking to 13th dimension.
Hey, the math works out. Check it.
Time to smoke something and chill out.
It's the Monday morning wake and bake hour at the Scream for Peace. And there's Sergio turning off my mic again. We're backwards again.
See how you are?
I think we're backwards. Yeah. I'm on 2. You're on 1.
All right.
That's all right. You can have the big mic today.
Hey, I want.
Bye, guys.
Mic.
Thanks for.
Bye, guys.
So.
See ya.
Love you.
All right. Scream for Peace.
So we're going to be opening up today's show. We're going to be talking about Nietzsche, Zarathustra, the Superman, super being, what that means, and the San Francisco Youth Symphony. So let's open up with a song, and we will be back in a moment. Listen intently. And that was the song that everybody should have playing in their bedroom, right? Dun, dun, dun. This is the theme song for Somebody's in the Room's love life. We're not going to mention any names.
I'll say it. That's what's playing in my head. New lover.
That's how you present yourself.
At the very ending, when it's like da 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 do do da, that's when the towel falls off.
And the applause begins. So tell us a little bit about that. Sergio here, Aldada, is a somewhat of a classical music aficionado. So tell the listeners, what did they hear and why is it important? Just a little bit.
Right. So that was the intro to Symphonic Zarathustraism, written by German composer Richard Strauss. It's a tone poem. Most people, the intro is most famously used in Stanley Kubrick's 2001: Space Odyssey. Of course, we don't realize that the work in itself is actually 30 minutes in length.
It is. It's quite. And we saw that performed yesterday by the San Francisco Youth Symphony, which is it was the last performance of the season before they take their break, and it's actually the second time I've heard them perform it, and it's quite a ensemble.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Quite an ensemble to see.
Piece. The recording that we heard was actually conducted by Maestro Michael Tilson Thomas, conducting the London Symphony.
Nice.
Before he joined San Francisco. The Strauss did not intend, also Sprach, the same title of literature written by philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, in which he cries out that God is dead and explains the controversial ideas of the Übermensch, the Overman, or in our translation, Superman, and his will to power, which the Nazis would kind of adopt later on. Strauss himself did not intend on setting also Sprach to music, but to simply conduct like an exploration of our human origins and the various phases of religion and science leading up to the ideas of the Übermensch.
And the Übermensch, what do you think? Okay, if you haven't read this, neither have I. I have browsed through it, but I did find on YouTube they have an audiobook of it, and it's a 10-hour reading, and that's posted on the Scream for Peace Facebook page. And we're going to dedicate the next 5 shows to a live reading of the Nietzsche book.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do 5 hours audiobooks. Maybe play it in the background. We're
gonna get your
program you unconsciously.
version for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
Why can't I get this?
And what? Oh, you didn't hear that?
Trying to problem solve right
Yeah. I can't do this while I'm on the air, but she can. But it's the ideas. Something that you hit on was how Nietzsche's works were construed. They embraced by the Nazis, just in pieces here and there. And Nietzsche himself would have been, I think, appalled by the misconstruction of his words. But the execution of the art of the work itself at the San Francisco Symphony was something to behold. And what one of the amazing things I'd like to say about them is, like, unless you had a really refined ear, I don't think anybody could really tell if they were just listening to a recording of it that it was like a youth symphony. And
It's
so
youngest,
props to them.
youngest musicians between the ages of 12 and 21.
21, yeah. They age out after that. Yeah. So it's a constant. Every year, what did they say?
Nearly
Like a
half the
third or
orchestra,
something.
yeah.
They graduate and move on. So it's in transition. So they really pulled it off. And this is an important piece of music, I think, for many ways, because one of the things that we're discussing here is the nature of reality, and the fact that we're looking at because the piece of music itself is a story. It was not composed for Stanley Kubrick for this movie, like most theme songs are. Most theme songs are today. They go out and they're specifically, they got to find. If they got the budget, they get Danny Elfman to do it. Otherwise, there's lots of different music composers out there, many of them, but this was something special. It was already in existence. What year did he write this? Do you recall? It was towards the end of his.
Yeah, he died like in, I believe, 1940. So.
Okay. So yeah. Then so early 20th century, it was written, and the fact that what he was doing with the music, Stanley Kubrick would later do with the movie 2001, because it was a story on the history and evolution, not the biological evolution, but the history of mankind, humanity.
Kind of where we're going to be going.
Yeah. And so we start out that song, or the beginning, the really powerful boom boom boom, that what we just listened to, that was just the introduction. That was what's in the movie. That reflected the dawn of man, the coming of consciousness, the evolution of consciousness. We became sentient beings. That music, that intro, that's what it. The entire song is 30 minutes long. The performance. Did you want us to see something? National Socialist,
There's your new overman.
A New York cabbie suspended. I'm a National Socialist. What you guys call a Nazi?
And it's a black guy.
Black Nazis, only in America.
It's a black guy.
With
So
a
there's your
Spanish
Superman.
A black guy with a Spanish surname.
And his wife's Jewish, of course.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the video later.
There's everything out there.
Everything.
And so there's the music that it had existed for nearly half a century before Kubrick got his hands on it, but they were really telling the same story. I don't think even Nietzsche could have envisioned technological revolution that would happen between his composition and the movie 2001: Space Odyssey, everything that happened in between. But then when you listen to this is what my experience was. I was listening to the progression of the 30-minute performance and imagining the different, they really did, like, you could represent the different ages, the agricultural age, the Baroque age. There was various sampling of different forms, I think, because sometimes it was very light and airy.
And I took that as like when things were simple. Exactly,
when they were, if they ever were. But I mean, calling back to a more simple time. But I mean, there was like you could, I mean, they weren't playing jazz or anything like that. Yeah. But I mean, it was
nothing was dissonant at the time.
What do you mean?
Music wasn't dissonant, like say in the Renaissance.
Right. You mean it was all melodic?
Right.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that in the song. There was this very airy melodic sounds, and then it would transition. And when that transition happened, I was imagining a transition of ages.
Right.
From agriculture to industrial, the Dark Ages, things like that. And it was just a pleasure to hear live, anytime.
And it is a work that is barely performed.
And why is that?
I'm not even sure.
difficult. Well, you need 3 harps and a guy on a ladder.
Clanging. We're still not sure what that clanging device is.
No. He was up there. It was at the very end. He was like, bong.
Yeah, but what is that?
It was a bunch of pipes.
It looked like a frame of some kind of apparatus.
Yeah. It didn't look like a conventional musical. It was like a pipe. It was like a pipe structure.
My first question was, what's the ladder for? My second question was, what the hell is that thing that he's hitting?
Yeah, and it was just with the mallet, It was just ding. But there was.
It kind of looked like an industrial move, like.
It did, and that actually symbolized something. I read in one of the great things about. I think people should patronize the symphony, because when I go there, it's like getting a lesson, because they do such an awesome job in the with their program guides, because you open it up and you get a survey on the history behind this work of art, behind the story.
Notes are amazing.
The notes are just fantastic. It is. I mean, just I mean, it could be a library in itself. The historic notes that are in here, and then you have a very good interpretation of you have the history side, but there's always wonderful interweavings of the importance of it. So it's just excellent writing all the time.
The venue is pretty interesting. I had never been to Davies Symphony Hall, so that was cool to check it out. It looked like something out of a scene of Star Wars.
Oh, with the tiered sitting.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe after the coming cataclysm, that will be where people gather for speeches and things like that, community. Because I could imagine that. Yeah. So we got that.
We definitely won't be sitting in the lodge when that happens. or maybe not even in there at all.
Yeah. But it was. I'm looking for trying to carve my niche in there.
Apparently, when we hear the intenseness of the music and it's rising and getting more aggressive, it says that Strauss was giving hints of a great longing, a longing to rise beyond our limitations.
And did he achieve that? I think so. It's an inspirational work. What is inspiration? What's the nature of inspiration? The nature of inspiration comes with, I think you could call it a coinciding of 2 experiences. So one of the experiences can just simply being alone with yourself and your thoughts. Where do ideas come from? Answer that question. You're sitting around. What necessitates an idea? Where do you have to be? What state of mind do you have to be in order to get an idea? There's no one answer for that, because it can happen I think the only criteria for having an idea is you have to recognize that it's an idea. You have to be conscious of it.
What about a need?
A need is not an idea.
I mean,
like you need to eat.
Like to wanting to create an idea, like it has that purpose. Right?
Not necessarily. I mean, like, what purpose does a poem play? What purpose does a poem have? Especially a bad poem. If you just write a bad poem and it's an idea, maybe you have a need to get it out. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
It's like
or at least the need for the poet to get it out, to get it off his chest.
Or her. Yes. And what is the nature of where do creativity and inspiration converge? In a work of art. That's where it does. And so Strauss has this idea to compose a piece of music that, although inspired by Nietzsche, was in no way meant to be a complete musical interpretation of the book or character. And Zarathustra, that's what I'm referring to. And what he achieved, I think, the audience, you could just see the people in the place, though. They're just coming alive, when we're during this performance, and there were lots of kids there, and you could see the kids would just like perk up.
They loved it.
The second half was the first half of the show, because there was 3 different composers featured. The first half, before intermission, there were 2. Who was it? Wagner.
Joseph Haydn.
Wagner.
Father of the symphony.
And so they were nice, but they were definitely it was the warm up, and you could see a lot of the kids in the audience were just sitting still and watching it, some falling asleep. I think it can have that effect on you. Some of the music is very soothing, goes on for a while. I even caught my eyes, drifting off a little bit.
I looked around.
Everybody was. There's always people. There's always.
Next to me was dozing off. I looked at Aslan. He was dozing off, and there was DJ Eldada wide awake, cheesing it up, watching this.
But they have comfortable seats.
Yeah.
It's
It
a
felt really
perfect
good.
temperature. You have the perfect. I mean, the sound in that is just amazing. It's amazing. And so, if you haven't had an opportunity to see a performance at the Symphony Hall, I'd highly suggest it. And they have a lot of innovative programming. Actually, it's not all like this. For example, they have movie night. There's going to be The Godfather. There's Charlie Chaplin's City Lights. That I saw. Did we see that together? Battleship Tupunkin?
No, Tupunkin. No.
Oh, I saw that. I can't remember. And and it was silent. And they had the organ. So what they do is they have a movie playing, and then the symphony's playing the soundtrack.
Yeah. Morrissey canceled that, Davies.
Right.
Yeah, I
That
was supposed to go to
tickets
that
were
show.
like over $100 a seat.
We had 4 tickets to that show, and we got dragged through the process of him canceling and having to get money back, and then buying tickets for the new venue, and then him canceling that. I almost didn't even try this last time.
Because you just thought it was going to be canceled?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, we're going to drive all the way to San Jose for him not to be there. And then he
Then he gets
actually
mobbed.
shows up, and then he gets mobbed. We don't even get to see the rest of the encore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I'm
Music can
sorry.
do that to you, though. Music has that effect. And
I think these people need to eat meat and calm the hell down.
You think that meat has something to do with it? Maybe they're eating too much meat. Maybe that's it.
I think these people are vegan, they're going crazy, and so they attack Morrissey. Because they don't know what to do with themselves and their energy.
Well, that was certainly the case on that night. And so one of the famous quotes that Nietzsche was often quoted was "God is dead." Part of his philosophy was that society had moved to the point of consciousness and a collective understanding that institutionalized religion, state-run religion, highly organized religion was a farce, and that because it was recognized that what people attributed to God was really just the natural state of being of the universe, and was in no way the guiding hand of a particular person, and that man was not created in God's image, but rather God was created in man's image.
And
that's really the case.
And these are coming from like the words of, or somehow kind of interpreting the words of the Persian prophet Zoroaster, or Zarathustra as he's known. From what I read, Nietzsche didn't necessarily agree with everything he had written.
What do you mean by that?
He didn't necessarily agree with everything that Zoroaster had to say.
Oh, right. So he would examine different sides of the topic. And do you have anything in particular? Can you think of anything?
None.
Okay, so I've got we're going to play just a short. This is a sort of an engagement of the God is Dead discussion And let me see here. Yeah. So go ahead and cue this up. And so here's a discussion about why God is dead.
Take away the supernatural, and what remains is the unnatural.
I am the first immoralist. One day, my name will be associated with the memory of something tremendous. A crisis without equal on Earth, the most profound collision of conscience, a decision that was conjured up against everything that had been believed, demanded, hallowed so far. I am no man. I am dynamite. My truth is terrible, for no one so far has called lies truth. I was the first to discover truth. The concept of sin was invented as a form of torture. The concept of free will was invented to confuse the instincts. The concept of good was invented to make man side with what is weak, with failure, with suffering of itself. All these things deserve to perish. I must confront humanity with the most tremendous task that has ever been demanded of it. Religion is for the rabble. Only the few who understand me understand that only we are the premature births of an unproven future. We are new, nameless, self-evident, stronger, more audacious. We are the supreme achievement beyond mere modern man, beyond mere good and evil. We have annihilated morality. We are the overman, the superman. God is dead, and we have killed him.
God is dead, beyond good and evil. These catchy phrases have been swallowed whole by the so-called intellectuals ever since they were first uttered by Friedrich Nietzsche, the madman who unfortunately turned out to be the most influential philosopher in the modern world. But Nietzsche himself swallowed another philosophy whole which gave him most of his ideas, the idea that only the strongest survive, that the weak are expendable, the idea of endless progress, the notion that humanity has not only progressed to this point, but now must progress beyond it. These are precepts that Nietzsche took from Darwinism. Nietzsche believed that humans are evolving into a higher life form that will be beyond human. He claimed that we have already progressed beyond humanity as it once was, which was religious. We no longer need religion. God is dead. God is extinct. One of God's functions was to provide moral unity. Therefore, morality is also extinct. We have moved beyond good and evil. Multitudes of philosophy professors and their students were seduced by these ideas. None of them were able to dissect Nietzsche the way their counterparts in the other departments managed to dissect everything human. No one figured out Nietzsche's fundamental flaws. Well, one person did. G.K. Chesterton.
Nietzsche, with his stark imagination of radiant monsters taking the place of men, thinks he is rebelling against Christian tradition. But he really doesn't even know what it is that he is rebelling against. He is actually rebelling against man. Or rather, his philosophy is rooted in a despair about man. is concern himself with a vague enthusiasm about the Superman. But what is really meant by this expectation of a superior organism? It means that the actual animal called man is to be treated almost as an extinct animal. Here's a fossil walking the streets, a sort of appendix of the cosmos, a superfluous organ. Man has survived evolution only to prove that he has no survival value. He is a cosmic disease, a sort of astral appendicitis. He must be improved upon, simplified, to make way for a new and nameless superhuman being. But what does this simplified Superman look like? Certainly a man is not a complete man without a nose. But for anything anybody knows about Superman, they may be better off without noses. Noses may be nests for germs, or the noise of the blowing of noses may disturb the delicate nervous organism of that strong man of the future, who is to be the master of us all. The modern philosopher is not trying to get rid of the troubles of men. He is trying to get rid of men because they are the troubles of the philosopher.
One of the most overlooked points about Nietzsche that Chesterton does not overlook is the fact that Nietzsche was an aristocrat. It explains in part why he despised the common man. Aristocracy is not a system, it's an accident. It's what happens when a small group of people have too much money, which prevents them from doing honest work. Chesterton says that aristocracy is a rebellion of the rich against the poor. This elite group of people have the mistaken notion that their money and their power also automatically includes good ideas. Nietzsche admired the strong and despised the weak. But ironically, he was not the sort of man that he praised. He was a weak man. He was, says Chesterton, a frail, fastidious, an entirely useless anarchist. His whole work is shot through with the pangs and fevers of his physical life. And yet he had a curious hatred of the weak, which extended to all humanity. He said, we need the overman, the superman.
Man is a thing that must be surpassed.
In one sense,
land. Swimming in sorrow, they kill, steal, and borrow. There is no tomorrow, for the sinners will be damned. Ashes to ashes, you cannot exhume a soul. Who do you trust when corruption and lust creed of all the
So is God dead? They think so, and wrote an entire 7-minute song about it. That was Black Sabbath.
Ozzy, yes.
That was that. And no doubt, Ozzy's very well aware of Nietzsche and another song influenced. So we have the scope of Nietzsche influenced music today, from Strauss to Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Everywhere in between. That is what consciousness is about, people.
No, in that the video you were playing, Nietzsche portrayed like the Ubermensch as villainous, and I learned that one of the first early incarnations of Superman is for like popular culture was a villain.
He was a bad guy. No, I don't know if I've ever actually heard that. How about you, Jessica? That he was. I mean, setting high expectations for the rest of us, man, that just makes him a bad man all over. That is the nature of evil, pitting us all against each other. So, like, you got this one dude that can do everything, make us all look bad. In a passive-aggressive society, they would have lynched him. We have no room for Superman. We're all created equal. None of us have any better, more talents than anybody else. No, that's not what it says. But I think the idea of the Superman is kind of interesting, because what does that do? What does that do? It sets a paradigm, a standard of morality, of ethics, and a standard by which we all compare ourselves to. But the nature of superheroes in general, when you see superheroes, and what makes them super? What makes them super? Their powers. They have some kind of superpower. Not all of them are supernatural, but so look at Batman. What was his superpower?
Well, his belt.
Nope.
Oh.
He was fucking rich.
Oh, right. Supplying with those really cool belts.
That was his superpower. Money, like with enough money, everybody can be Superman. That's just the way it is.
Everybody can have a Batmobile and a butler.
Yeah, you have those.
And I think
that's power.
I think the Batman movies actually outnumber Superman movies.
Ooh, I'm getting some tinnitus right now. I am not. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that to come out, but I wouldn't doubt it.
But remember, Batman was very depressed. He was very, very unhappy with life. Can you hear me?
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
I was just saying Batman was very depressed, very unhappy with life.
Because he lost his parents.
Because he was so rich?
And he couldn't get the girl he wanted.
He get every girl in the world except the one he really wanted. Now that's a fairy tale. Because in this town, money matters. Despite what people say, every town's got to be the same way. But money is power. Money is power. And but that's a different show. That's a different show. But when in this context, though, with the Superman idea, and we see this myth interwoven throughout all, not just America, all of society, all of history is written in myth with these godlike superheroes, and some of them were just gods. I mean, look at Jesus, raise the dead. Is that a superpower or what? You know, heal, walk on water, all that shit's cool stuff. That is like, wow,
turns
I'd like
water into wine.
That's
Shit.
one we'd all like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We'd blow the wineries out in the bay
But
out of the water with that one.
Was that like?
But they're metaphors. You know, these
Literally
are
with
metaphors. Wine. These are metaphors that people can relate to, and superpowers are an extension of our own powers. You know, even I think at an unconscious, primitive level. So what I mean for that is, for example, take the Human Torch, can create fire and stuff like that, right? We are made of energy. Everything is energy. So there's an element of ourselves that is magnified, extremified, fictionalized, that when we look at a superhero, at its very core, we're like that. There's a piece of us in that. That's why things like the Hulk, oh, that's a scientific accident. That could happen to me.
I mean, like,
you know,
I believe like Richard Wagner's Ring Cycle used a lot of demigods.
Oh yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
If you see Lord of the Rings, that's what the Ring was basically based on. You know, so you see those, you know, superhero godlike demons and heroes, heroines, teams of people gathering together to conquer the evil that's about to sweep over the earth. There's a lot of that going around.
I have a superpower.
What is that superpower?
My appetite. Just as DJ Aldado.
You can eat anybody.
I got reamed for having yogurt like before going to bed. And then he had rice. And I reminded him that
rice.
I don't want to know
rice.
about your reams before bed. You know, not on the air. That's not that kind of show. That's the Thursday night show.
Okay, let's do that. We'll talk about our reaming. Rimming, whatever.
So,
Superpowers. What's yours, Leo?
Thinking.
Yeah. Thinking, writing.
Writing's a superpower.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Hiding, I'm really good at hiding. I can hide so well, nobody even knows I'm missing.
He plays Waldo in Oblivion.
What's your superpower?
I can speak dolphin.
Oh, that's right.
I can speak dolphin.
That's awesome.
So, it's not all I can do with that mouth.
Like we said, that's a whole different show.
I can sing. You don't want to hear me sing, though. But I think talking, I can talk endlessly for hours.
Yeah, we know that. And he can, too. You can leave him in a room and he'll still be talking when you come back 30 minutes later. That's your superpower? Is that your superpower?
Annoy them. Like deter them.
Talking. I can annoy them. I can deter them. I love that you own it.
But, you know, what if in the course of human evolution, think about a species that evolves into its highest state of physical and energy being. Let's say throughout the course of that, let's just call that 10,000 years. 10,000 years. And we are in, for this course of human evolution, we're in year 2000. So there's 8,000 more years to go on human evolution. What if our imaginary, kind of like science, things that you imagine to be science fiction way out in the future, you know, that were written about in the 50s are a reality today. Many things. Laser beams, space travel, robots, communication, iPhones, cell phones, communicators, cars, electromagnetic rail travel, levitation through sound waves, quantum computing, very, very advanced stuff going on. What if, like, our ideas about superpowers are just a hint, an unconscious hint, a collective conscious hint that this is what we're evolving to as a species? Because there's a guy, I've seen a video, haven't seen anything to debunk it, and it looks like the real deal. And I've traveled through Asia, and I've seen some of that stuff myself. And there's this guy, I think he's in Tibet. I can't even remember. We should do a show on this, where he's channeled his chi so well. He can literally channel all the power in his body to his hands and light a piece of newspaper on fire, or a piece of paper, just like focusing on that. So, like, what happens if, you know, that's just an evolutionary marker of what we're, you know, in 1,000 years, everybody will be able to do that. People will look back like, God, remember when people needed matches to light stuff? How primitive. Or, you know, particularly with our minds evolving, what we think of as fictional, hocus pocus, mumbo jumbo psychic telepathy, power, levitation stuff that that happens with people's minds. You know, science is showing us now that there's a lot more to it than hocus pocus. What happens if, you know, like you see this in the very first episode of Star Trek? It was about an encounter. Actually, not the first episode. It was the pilot project before William Shatner came on. But that very first episode, it was an encounter with advanced beings that did not use their mouths, vocal cords to communicate. They communicated telepathically, just with their minds. What happens if we evolve into a species where, can you imagine a society where you knew what the other person was thinking, if there were, even if, let's just say what they were saying was not true, and you had that connection with them. Imagine a society where people could not bullshit or lie to you.
Damn.
If that happened overnight, all of society would collapse because everything is a lie. The power structures would dissemble, relationships would dissolve, new ones would be formed, of course. But I mean, that's a big thing, and I think we're seeing a lot of blockage in that. Imagine if empathy was the most powerful force on Earth.
Well, it would look very, very different.
There'd be no homeless people. There'd be no killing. There'd be no murder. There'd probably be a little bit, but nowhere near the level there is now. You know, what happens if all the toxins, all the fluoride in the water, all the toxins in our food, all the hostilities, interpersonal struggles to attain more stuff, what if all of that is just blocking and contaminating the brain system to slow down that process? And that's kind of what I see happening is because what happens, you know, if you, let's say you have a garden, right, and then you have an organic garden, and then you start using some kind of fucked up pesticide to kill a bunch of stuff because you don't like the little bugs. What happens there? You know, sure, you die off a lot, but a couple of them are going to survive, most likely. And those that do are going to breed, and they're going to develop a resistance to that. Nature is the strongest force on Earth. No matter what we do, if every nuclear weapon on the planet exploded simultaneously right now, the Earth is going to be fine. There's going to be a loss of life, obviously, but the Earth will regenerate itself much faster than people would believe. It might take thousands of years. Humanity might disappear for a while, but if anybody makes it, they'll be stronger for it. But I mean, nature's going to develop that and overcome and modify. What would you call evolve? You know, in all situations. So what happens if we're evolving into a species, but all of these toxins? Let's say we're evolving naturally into super people, where we have these powers that today we would consider just completely bizarre. The ability to read minds, the ability to empathize, the ability to be an empath. What happens if you saw somebody in pain and you actually had the ability to walk over, put your hand on their shoulder, let's say, and transmit positive energy to help relieve that pain? I mean, what is a hug? What is a hug? Does a hug ever do you think in the history of time anybody's ever felt better by getting a hug?
Yeah. Hugs, kisses, all those things.
So those actually, there is a biological, physiological, chemical thing that happens in your mind. What happens if we can transmit that from a distance? And so a lot of these wars and institutionalized propaganda machines are meant to keep us from achieving that level of being, because this is the reason, this is the secret they don't want us to know. Are you ready? They're already there. That's the beauty of what they experience on a regular basis, and they don't want the rest of us to evolve into that type of species, which is why they engage in institutionalized eugenics masked in economics, religion, and politics. Keep all the little people fighting amongst themselves and make our reality such a bizarre possibility that nobody would even believe it if they were confronted with it. That is how radically different. It's like the Elysium. You know, there's this Elysium in heaven, but it's all over, it's all around us. We're just not allowed to participate in that because of the dividing line. And the biggest dividing line is economics. And it's not all about money per se, but it's where the money comes from, how you get it, how much is it, because, you know, there are millionaires out there, people worth millions of dollars that couldn't afford to buy you lunch. You know, they've got everything invested. I'm not talking about the kind of new money where people go out and become successful. I'm talking about the institutionalized money where these people have been living the clean life for hundreds of years. So when we talk about the 1%, we're not talking about people with money. We are talking about a different species of humanity, because they've had generations and generations of stress-free life where they never had to worry about money, and an unyielding, complete and total free access to all the healthy food and water they could drink forever. So it's not just them today, it's all of their ancestors. So they have actually evolved into a different species. So when we talk about the ruling class, we're talking about a different flavor of human. It really is. And because we're all genetically modified. If you're poor, and when I say poor, I mean if you have any debt, so you might own your house, but you might think you own your house, but really your house owns you. Your house owns you, and it's not. All those laws were rewritten when the market crashed, and so if you actually read your mortgage, you're basically just a glorified renter. You don't own anything. The government owns the land. You're renting that place from the government.
Yeah.
You have to ask them to do anything to it. If you want to change your toilet, you need a permit. And
yeah, people realize that in the harshest way possible.
Yeah. And so I'm not talking about just, you know, bringing yourself up by the britches, coming from a poor family and then making it big, because if that's you, you're not in the club. That's where they talk about. These people are obsessed with blood and family lines, who you married, interbreeding. And it's not about race in the context of black, white, Indian, because these upper level people permeate all nations, all countries. They're all in it together. And we are their cattle. And on that happy note, we're going to cut to a couple of songs, and we will be back in a moment. Here's some nice words about eugenics. In a second, it'll be here.
Anyone who has a cause in life where they put that much time and effort into trying to change something, how do you pick one thing? How do you wake up in the morning and look at the billions of things that suck on this planet? You log into your Yahoo News and it's just countries you didn't even know were countries have problems you didn't even know existed. How do you pick one sliver of that and decide that's the one we have to print up T-shirts and have a car wash? I would be so confused. I want to make change. How do you pick something if it hasn't affected you? Oh, juvenile diabetes? Well, I don't know, but I have lots of free time during the day. I guess I should. Oh, wait, spina bifida. And the guy's right here, and he's uncomfortable to look at. So maybe I'll go with this guy's cause. And clitoral circumcision in the third world? And that, I know that gives me a handy excuse for not finding it, but that's selfish, and I have to stop thinking about me. Maybe we should, and as soon as you focus on one thing, here comes Sarah McLachlan on the TV with the skinny, sad puppies and the abused in the arms of an angel. I don't know why animals always seem to trump any human cause, but they do, and now you're telling me about fucking corrective rape, which is some weird thing in South Africa, you know? Corrective rape is where they gang rape lesbians to try to cure them, and I'm behind that just to bring attention to it, because the term corrective rape is such a good comedy reference that I demand a bigger laugh when I mention corrective rape, and no one knows about it, so I want to bring attention to your cause. I just don't know how you pick. If I had any cause over the course of my career that I bitched the most about, it's overpopulation, which is the root of most of the other problems you care about, anti-children. But I don't know where to send a check. I don't know. Like, what do you do? The only solution that I've ever come up with, which I think is great, but no one's gotten on board, incentive-based eugenics. Eugenics was a practice of sterilizing people. Hitler got a lot of the credit for it, but it was actually done in this country long before Hitler even knew who he was mad at. We were practicing eugenics in this country. Eugenics was the practice of forced sterilization of undesirables, which sounds bad. And the way they did it was bad, because they would, first of all, the force is wrong. You don't force people to do things they don't want to do. And B, who decides who's undesirable? They were doing it in this country at the turn of the 20th century, which is the 1900s for a lot of my fans. Early 1900s, to criminals, perverts, which is way too vague, the mentally ill, mentally retarded, homosexuals, which makes perfect sense. We don't want them breeding. Little queers running all up and down like gremlins. But if you took away the force and you just made it incentive-based for people willing to sterilize themselves, offer up some white trash prizes. You know, NASCAR pit pass, meet your favorite driver. All you gotta do is snip the sack. Really? Year supply of Sunny Delight. You want some Sunny D, don't you? All you're gonna do is putty up that front hole, lady. You still have 2 holes left to trick guys out of drinks at the bar. What do we gotta do? Are you telling me if I cut off my balls, I'm going crossbow hunting with Ted Nugent? Well, shit, yeah. No, sir, wait, no, you don't actually cut off your balls. We just make a small incision with a local anesthetic. Fuck you, I want you to cut off my whole balls. I'm gonna hang them from my rear view mirror like a lucky rabbit's foot. I'm going crossbow hunting with the nudes. I ain't never won nothing in my life. That's a workable plan. You can't argue with that. It just won't happen.
Gravity and velocity are the only properties that keep me from falling into the sun. It's not every day we can turn attraction the other way. I'm spinning at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Can't keep my feet down anymore. I'm cycling time like a rock on a string.
their expectations. Countries not a bad case of illegal importation. Take the larger dose of the buzzer recommendations. You won't feel better, you won't feel better, but you're taking one for the nation. And we can be the perfect America, engineered in the home of the free. With a little help from P.e.a.c.e and a little gene therapy. Go! Reduce the cost of living low, the process of elimination. Not like the genetic laws of the older generation. Just pull that plug on the machine that survives the restoration. Medical care by Darwin, call it natural selection. And we can be the perfect America, engineered in the home of the free. With a little help from P.e.a.c.e and a little gene therapy. Yeah, we can be a perfect America, engineered in the home of the free. With a little help from P.e.a.c.e and little gene therapy. Everybody sing, whoa, na 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 na, whoa, whoa, na 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 na,
And that was the Nextons doing American eugenics. Oh, excuse me, the Nexon years, American eugenics. And earlier we heard comedian Doug Stanhope with his skit of incentive-based eugenics.
Yes, and I think that would actually, we do have that right now. Very much so, and it's not always a pleasant thing. So they do practice that. Just so, for example, an example of institutionalized incentive-based eugenics would be gangster hip hop rap, because a lot of that stuff is promoted. It's invested in behind the scenes by the prison industrial complex, who wants to create crime so they can go out there and capitalize on it. And so one of the forms of eugenics that has been going on for hundreds of years in America is slavery. Various forms. There's all types of different forms of slavery. But in the most prevalent, I think, in America is the prison industrial complex system. So that in itself is a form of eugenics, because people are not allowed to live the lives that they were born to live. They're never allowed to experience humanity because they're under the thumb and the grip of a hostile system that just doesn't, they in as people who view the world as a zero-sum game has already crossed the line to just say, I'm willing to take from somebody else. And what are they willing to take? Anything, including their lives. And so a form of eugenics is our prison system. And there was I want to do some research on this, but there was a quote by Richard Nixon that you will never see on mainstream media. And it was a behind-the-scenes, maybe an overheard conversation. And he makes a comment that says, well, the problem with America is, one of the big problems in America is the black population, the blacks. And we have to be able to control them and oppress them, but you have to do it in a way that nobody really thinks it's happening. The next year, the war on drugs began. The war on drugs was never a war on drugs. It was a war on black and brown drug users, Because if they wanted a war on drugs, all they'd have to do is go to the source.
Right.
You cut off the supply. That's it. It has nothing to do with it. You don't need 3 million people incarcerated. I mean, it's more than that, isn't it? What's the number? I have to go back. It's a sick. We're the most imprisoned. We have the largest enslaved population in the world. But it's been so well shielded and disguised through media, and if you go poking around, they don't like that at all. But if you go out and do some research, you're going to find that there are over 100 prison factories, that are basically for-profit prison factories that have just basically transitioned the slave population, and that's it. And this is one of the things the propaganda shield machine did with the 13th Amendment in 1863, and that was they said one thing and did another. So what did we hear about the 1863 13th Amendment was slavery was abolished. Just went away, gone, passed a law, no longer there. Yay, progress. But what really happened was that for the first time in American history, it became legalized. If you read it well, if you read the 13th Amendment well, I've got a copy of it here, I can pull it out. The word slavery was never mentioned anywhere in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. And so this is the first time that it was introduced into one of those documents, into that high level of a document, and it became legalized. It gave it a specific instance in which slavery is legal, and that is convicted of a crime, duly convicted of a crime. And so that became the impetus for changing the perspective from a slave-based economy that was in the hands of the general population, and transitioned it to exclusively the government. So only the government could own slaves. So in a way, that's still progress, because before it was everybody. But we saw a transition to the primarily blacks that were kidnapped from Africa and transported over in slave ships. That was the primary. They were white from day one, though. They were white, indentured servitude, people who would give 10 years of their life to work, be property of somebody else for transport to America. Take me to America, I'll give you 10 years of my life. I did the same thing with the U.S. Navy. Take me, I'm yours, I'm your slave. I was a slave for 10 years where they were my master. I had to do that, whatever they say. But it was you had to buy. It's structured though, where you just buy into the system. But
so that was 10 years.
What's that?
10 years. 10 years you were in the military.
From entry to exit, yes.
18 to 28, was that it?
It was when I actually left. It was I was still 27, just turned 28. Yeah, pretty much. And. But just because I had some saved up leave at the end, a couple of months, and that was my anyway. So yeah, 10 years. But the first 6 was just extreme, because I was stationed aboard 2 warships for about a 5.5-year period. All we did was deploy. If you weren't on deployment, you were getting ready for deployment, and there was no difference in the work. Really, I mean, it was that intense a lot of the times, because you were always very little rest. I squeezed in parties and fun here and there when you could, but it's a life most people just cannot even comprehend, and you don't even realize how arduous it is until it's out and you're looking at people. I just talked to a friend. I mean, like when you're at sea, you work 24/7. 7 days a week. You're on call, you're at sea, you're working, that's it. And there is no, your downtime is you walk up to the deck and maybe do some exercise. There is no, you're out in the middle of the ocean, maybe watch a movie or something like that, but you're just with the same people all the time. These were not big ships. But I mean, that was my early 20s. And then I got stationed here in San Francisco. So the last part of it was kind of like having shore duty. It's kind of like, a reward for all that time you spent at sea. So it was a really good. It wasn't
shore duty.
Shore duty means you're stationed not on a ship,
but you're still doing work.
You're still in the military. You're still wearing the uniform. You're still in the military. You're just not stationed on a ship. And it was really more of an administration. I had reached the senior level of rank, and so and I was going to school full time and working full time, and I really loved what I was doing, And so it wasn't in the hot boiler rooms and engineering plants and all that, but we were still the support. So it was an administrative, educational thing. Graduated from college. So the last 3 was basically like having a job where I wore a uniform. It would have been like most people would have killed to have that job that I had during that period, and so that was a benefit, I guess, because I was looking at if I had gotten out at the 6-year mark. I was looking at using my GI Bill to go to school because I was only about 2 years and had completed my under 2 years of school, and so I still had 2 years to go. So I could have gotten out, gotten a job, and gone to school, done that, or I could have done the exact same thing and not had to worry about finding a job because I was already getting paid well. And so I decided to stay in, and it was awesome because I did a great tour, learned a lot, graduated from a top school in the Bay Area, and I'm getting out anyway, right? There's no way, because everybody knew I did 2 tours in the Persian Gulf, and one of them was during wartime operations, and everybody in the military knew we were going back because you know what? That's what we do. That's all you do. There is no defeat. Even if you lose something, you're going to go back in, and so it's endless. It's never going to end. And when the Gulf War thing happened, and I had shore duty, and you see what's going on, it's just like, of course we're going back. There's nothing that's going to stop us. People were pissed that we didn't just go in and finish it and just take over all of Iraq right then. In the military, within everybody, there were just, and it was really kind of interesting to see the transition from these, because these are people I worked alongside with for a long time. There are a lot of family guys, kids, sports loving, flag waving Americans who were doing one of the most, if not the most dangerous job in the world, is being in the military, going into battle with people shooting missiles and shit at you. So there's and generally they're just nice family people, but they turned into bloodthirsty warriors the minute they found out there was an opponent that we were willing to kill. And I remember this. I'll never forget this. The morning they told us we were going to the Gulf, it was stuff had come out on CNN. Everybody knew there was something awry, and they call everybody up on deck, and you have to line up on deck according to rank, and so you have the officers and the senior people facing the rest of the crew, and so I'm standing there facing, there's nobody in between me because I'm the rank I'm at, everybody's behind me. The other people the same rank of me are next to me, right? So I'm facing directly a couple of chiefs and our division officer, and they say, it was really kind of quick. We knew something was going up, but they says, well, gentlemen, or something like that. The day has finally come. This is what we've all been waiting for. We're going to war. And simultaneously, everybody around, I'm standing there, and I kind of took it as like, well, duh, it was like kind of a nonchalant, it's like, shit, I was hoping to avoid this. Yeah. You join the military, it's like, I'm really there for the college and like meet girls. That's pretty much it. That's why I joined. And of course, they put me on a warship with no women. But when you go to a foreign town, but I kind of had the oh shit, I was trying to hoping to avoid this moment, but hey, I'm going to do my duty. I'm not going to run away. It's like, so I'm just like, okay, let's get to work. But the people It was in unison. It was in unison. They just all, with the ferocious roar, raised both of their hands in the air and just went, yeah, yeah. They had no idea who we were going to war against. They had no idea.
Or why.
I mean, we knew there was stuff going over there in Iraq, right? And and the Persian Gulf and all this stuff had been in the news, but there's that shit going on all over the world all the time. So it's like, which war are they feeding us today, right? But it was so weird because it was everybody, and they were just so excited we were going to go out and launch missiles and kill innocent people.
Oh, it's so sick.
But to them, we were spreading democracy. And
I bet if you sat those people down and said, okay, let's talk about what is democracy. I would love to hear their definition to that.
You get a vote, and the people we vote for represent us. The people.
Wow. No clue.
That's it. That's it. They don't. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. Democracy is just a word. It means whatever you want it to mean. Mm-hmm. And it was bizarre. It was bizarre. And it wasn't. I would say it was the most consternation that I felt in any period. It was because it was so intense. It was so intense. And you really start when you go to bed every night knowing you're just one floating mine away from death. You know, when you're in waters that have been reported to have been mined, you're sitting off the coast of the UAE, you know, in the Persian Gulf. The skies are completely black and it's noon, right? Why are they black? Because there are over 700 oil wells burning. Burning oil in 100-foot plumes for months, and the entire time we were there, the entire time there. And what they don't want you to know, this is part of and how this is applicable is, you know, we're talking about eugenics and the Nietzsche-esque and world domination. This is played in stuff before, but how does it actually work? It's so you know, I think in Kennedy's Secret Society speech, he talked about what is actually going on is so massive, so well orchestrated. When people are confronted with it, they just can't believe it's true. They just can't believe that that's the world that we actually live in. That's the way it is. Because this weapons of mass destruction that they didn't find, the reason why they knew they had them was because Monsanto made them and gave it to them. We knew that they had them. There are pictures of Donald Rumsfeld going in and like shaking hands with Saddam Hussein. He was a CIA operative to begin with. He took back his own country, and if anybody wants a detailed examination of with that, just go to screamforpeace.net. Check out a couple of just do a search for Persian Gulf or Gulf War. We've got a couple of different shows that address that. And one of the things that they're talking about, that phrase that's thrown over and over and over again, the weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction, because we knew we had them because we gave it to them, right? So what they did is, you know, they portrayed that the torching of the wells is a last-ditch piss off fuck you from Saddam to Americans, and the whole world is an act of rebellion. You know, you don't do that. You don't torch 700 wells. You have to have a well-skilled and trained team to do one. And these were all done at the same time. There was an entire army doing just that. And so what really happened is they took all of those chemicals, they poured them down the wells like they do with fracking. You know, they frack the wells. They fracked them, they spiked them with all of the chemicals, all the chemical and biological warfare agents. Depleted uranium could have been in there. All kinds of stuff, you know. So what happened is these wells became the dispersing agent, you know, and what they did is they torched the wells and ran. They didn't stay and fight. You know, they're talking about why it was a clean sweeping victory. It was because there was never intended to be a full frontal war. It was not a last ditch effort. It was a hit and run. And so that, and then the first division of the Marines ordered like 5,000 body bags. Guess how many they used? 50. You know, you don't get that in a full front on two front combat. So his troops, the Iraqi troops, were in a constant state of retreat. You know, they were defending and retreating, but they weren't attacking anybody, really. They were hitting key targets just to cause disarray and stuff. But the whole thing was a massive launch. It was a dent that they were going to poison the air and the land and the people that were going to destroy them, because they knew it was going to happen one way or the other.
Yeah.
That's what the New World Order is about.
A lot of what I was thinking about was we always talk about in the environmental justice world, you know, corporate polluters, and you know, the number one corporate polluter is actually the military.
Yeah.
And we always talk about how a lot of the workers are at risk, and you know, the first hit and at risk are obviously the soldiers or those that, you know, are in the military, whatever branch that is.
Yeah.
And actually, one of my professors when I was in college over here at San Francisco State, he also went to the last, you know, he was in Iraq, and he and his comrades, whatever you want to call them, developed cancer, and he talked a lot about the depleted uranium that they were exposed to.
Yeah, that's everywhere. And I'm personally actually having health issues, and I look back at I was referred to go through the Gulf War physical at the VA, and so I had reported seemingly unconnected things, and then they show me this list of people of Gulf War illness, and there's like of the symptoms like, oh, I've done that, I've had that, I've had that. But what they do, what's the big ailment that they have in when you hear veterans? What's the first thing you think of? Come on, it's an acronym.
Oh yeah, PTSD. Yeah.
That's what. So what happens is when any veteran pretty much reports anything, they're going to go in and classify them as PTSD some way or another. If you look at the numbers, a small percentage of people who have PTSD or have been diagnosed with it experience any combat at all. And so you look at that. That's a big misperception. And what they do is they just get them on these drugs. It's a big giant drug machine there. And they tried. So what they're doing is you know what happened with Agent Orange. Oh, that's safe for human consumption. It's just going to like kill the plants. It's not going to affect humans at all. You know, they're still dealing with that today. And so what they did with Agent Orange, they're now doing with the Gulf War. And they're blaming everything on PTSD. So they don't have to pay out. Because the last thing in the world they want to admit is, oh, yeah, all that soot, all that smoke you guys were blowing, that was really, those were caused by carcinogens that were manufactured in Ohio.
Right.
You know, oh, those tumors that you have. So I have a big-ass tumor. It's like an inch long in my hip, my right hip. And other nerve-related issues, and it's exactly what they say is like, if you look at the side effects of radiation poisoning, those I have, like everything that I reported is on, but they're saying that it's all unrelated.
Of course.
And I was like, my ship entered the Persian Gulf while all the
they have their own doctors, I'm sure.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
This is so cookie cutter of industry.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
PG&E have their own doctors. That whole story that you heard about in Hinckley with the Aaron Brockovich movie that people can relate to through that movie is that they had their own doctors that they had the community see, and the doctors were instructed to tell people that here's some medicine, go home, you'll be all right, it'll go away, whatever. No, it has nothing to do with the water.
Yeah.
But it had everything to do with the water. So yeah, it's a repeated story.
It is, and it's never ending. That's another never ending war. And but at the end of the day, you have to look at just take all the politics and the morality, pretend it's the year 3000, and that Earth has evolved into a community of 10 billion people living not in perfect harmony, but in a synchronistic way. There's no war, there's no money system. Population have figured out, ironically, how to control itself. Nobody had to. As soon as people stopped trying to control the population, things evolved at a natural pace, much quicker, much faster than when people were in the reign, had the reins. So imagine it's that year, and they look back at now. How would they contextualize it? How would they? And I think part of our evolutionary process are going to look at things like toxins in the water, things like wars, economics, deprivation, capitalism, socialism, fascism. All of those things were working at the detriment of the many for the benefit of the few. And the many were systematically being controlled in a manner which they had no idea. They were in a prison where they couldn't see the bars. They were locked in a system that they had no idea even existed. But what it did to them biologically is it slowed down their evolution. So here's kind of what I see, how I've envisioned the world. Imagine dog breeders. Okay, you got two sets of dog breeders, and you have one set of you got 100 dogs. You start out with 100 random dogs, representing just a myriad of different breeds. And what you do is you start breeding them to be like show dogs, right? You very much control their environment. There's no limit on how much money you have for training, for medicine, for food. You give them the best of everything. You got 100 dogs. And then you take another set of 100 dogs, right? And you take them to the mountains of Utah and just let them go, right? Everybody's tagged. They got tags and everything. Everybody's tracked. So at the end of, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, what do you have?
Oh, you've got mixed breeds.
You have, on one hand, you have a group of dogs that look fantastic. They're very well trained. They can do exactly what you ask them to do. They can sit, they can talk, they can roll over, they can run an obstacle course. They are beautiful to look at, right? Because you're looking at them, and they're just perfect everything. They've been bred perfect. And in numbers, there's less than 100. There's way less than 100. You know, because they're trying to breed the perfect dog. They're trying to they don't care about making the lives of the dogs fulfilled. They're using them to breed the perfect dog. So the goal is to take that 100 and slowly eliminate them, breed them all together, but eliminate them, and it's the strongest will survive. But the real goal is to intermix them to the point where you have just a handful of small, well, perfectly groomed dogs. On the other side, if you go back to the other 100 dogs, and you're able to gather them all up and their offspring, how fast can 100 dogs reproduce?
Pretty quickly.
That 100 dogs is going to be a couple of 100 dogs, and they're going to be strong, robust, because they've been living in the wild, right? They're going to be stronger. So if you were to do a comparison, and you gather all those dogs together in one place, and let's just say throw them on a football field, what's going to happen? Those bred dogs are going to get their asses beat.
Right.
Because these mobs, there's going to be an entire hundreds that are all part of this clan, this one breed, and I doubt they're going to, integrate well.
Right.
I could be wrong, but I mean, there's going to be some hostilities and stuff. So think about that as a people thing as well. That's what's going on. The reason why they have to poison us, they have to give us fluoride in the water, they have to toxify our food, is because they are genetically modifying us to keep us from doing that. They have to maintain docile non-thinkers and people who are highly capable and highly conscious, but are only able to see the world that serves the purpose of their masters. Once you step out of that paradigm, then you become the enemy. And that's what we see going on right now. I think they would look back at the 20th century, 21st century, as an evolutionary leap forward into the states of consciousness because of the internet propelling it. You're seeing a globalization of consciousness that had never existed before, and so is that a good analogy to what's going this? And that's why they have to do this. It's not a matter of we love you, you're the people, we're trying to represent you, or any of that. It's we're a different race of people. We have everything. We're going to keep everything, and this is our game. This is what we do. That's what you do. You know.
Yeah, the war of attrition is very complex.
Very much so, and far more than the average person is willing to. But I tell you, one of the ways to really break yourself away from that paradigm is to turn off the TV, turn off the media. It's just, I'm not saying like, oh, I like watching a good show or a good movie once in a while. It is what it is. But when you take the veil, the glittery shine of the television away, the world becomes a more vibrant yet grimier place. Mm-hmm. You start looking at the relationships, because this is what happens. You look at TV, you see all these idealized, perfectly timed lines, funny, dramatic, good-looking people. That becomes a pacifier for a reality you wish existed. But when you don't have that, you start looking around and you see the dismal dullness that is around you. The illusion is suspended. And that's a very difficult thing to do. It's to suspend your own illusions and continue to living in a delusion, basically. We will return.
Not only have the Han invaders been driven from the lands they had ravaged, but the guts of the German army have been largely torn out by Russian valor and generalship. The American victories in the Pacific, and in particular their latest conquest and liberation of the Marshall Islands, constitute superb examples of the combination of naval, air, and military force. When the signal is given, the whole circle of avenging nations will hurl themselves upon the foe and batter out the life of the cruelest tyranny which has ever sought to bar the progress of mankind.
That was Ubermensch by Punishment Park.
Everybody needs a little punishment in their Ubermensch. So, we're in the last home stretch of the Scream for Peace show. Thanks for joining us. If you're in San Francisco on Saturday, June 7th, go by Bender's Bar. Starting at 9 p.m., Radio Valencia will be hosting Happy Fangs and Hurry Up Shotgun, 2 bands. And apparently, for $10, you can get a wristband. All you can drink until the keg runs dry. So what I imagine what we're going to see here is a keg. If there's only one keg where this applies to, the keg is basically just going to start pouring and not stop until it's empty. So I'm going to be curious on if anybody could time it. I actually will not be there myself due to a previous engagement, but Radio Valencia is asking for a $5 to $20 sliding scale, implying that the more broke ass you are, the less you have to pay. But they're asking for at least $5. And if you're rolling in dough, driving the Benz, living in the loft, they'd like to see 20 come out of your wallet. So you can hang out with Radio Valencia DJs, band members from Happy Fangs and Hurry Up Shotgun. Huh?
I said hood rats.
Hood rats. Yeah, a lot of that. Until the keg runs dry. But even after the keg runs dry, you can still order drinks. Because this is Bender's Bar, where the bar is never dry. And so that's going on. And what else is going on in the world? Lots of stuff. But check out the archives of Radio Valencia's. You can go to Radio Valencia/Scream for Peace or screamforpeace.net. Check out the archives of podcasts. Check us out on Swell. If you have an iPhone app, you can download the Swell app. SWELL. Search for us. You can subscribe to our podcast there through iTunes and or RSS feed. There's lots of different ways. Just check out one of the podcasts. We have links to everything. And if you are so inclined, if you like to support Radio Valencia and the Scream for Peace show, you are welcome to send in a donation, and it'll go to the radio station only, so it'll be applied to dues and equipment and fun things to add to the show. So you can do that. If you want the tax deduction, we can arrange for that to happen as well.
Awesome.
That's my public service announcement. And check out the other shows, though. There's lots. One of the things I like to do, we've been going through a period of extreme downtime with the station, but when it's working and quite functional, you can go to the homepage, subscribe. Actually, there's nothing to subscribe to other than individual shows. But if you go to the homepage, and there's the last several podcasts, and just press the little arrow button and it'll automatically start playing it. And so there's always a myriad of music on the front page of the Radio Valencia site. So even if you're not, most people are really really Oops.
What's that?
Ooh, should we do it? Should we answer it? Should we answer it?
Answer it on the air.
Hello. Now I'm gonna let that go to voicemail. If I recognize it, I don't know what it is. It's probably a wrong number. I don't know anybody in Florida that I want to find me. Yeah, so we have some interesting shows coming up. We're going to be broadcasting from the lower level of the Armory Club tomorrow. And the topic is if you've ever been stalked or had a stalking problem, being stalked. We're not asking all the stalkers to come down and tell us how great it is. Mm-hmm. But if you've ever been had that issue, we're going to be talking about that. And I have a
wait, Stalkers is the next one?
Huh?
Stalkers is the next one?
Yeah, we can do it again though. Oh, you can't be there? That's all right.
That's a good one.
Yeah. We'll do it here.
He's got a good stalker story.
Yeah.
We were just talking about it this morning.
Okay, let's.
The ex
Yeah, crazy.
who would disturb the phone line through emergency breakthrough.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tragedies that I should not have been bringing home to mom. So that's why now.
She didn't want to meet me. She won't meet me because of his past.
We have the statute of limitations, and before you introduce.
Yeah. So join us at the lower level if you're in town. Swing by, say hello, and if you've got a story, just shoot us. Contact us there on Facebook at the Scream for Peace Show, and we'll maybe set something up. And so yeah, I've got a couple of interesting stories. I don't think Sergio's heard of one in particular that was pretty nasty. She went away though. I haven't heard from her in a while.
Right.
Oh, you told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's.
I might be here next Monday because it is a holiday.
Oh no, not next Monday. Tomorrow at the Armory Club.
Oh.
For Fet Talk Radio.
Oh.
For
Okay.
Fet Talk, not our show. I don't know what
listen
Screen
to
Piece is up next week, but we do have coming up. I think on the 9th or the 7th. What is that? Monday next early June. We tentatively have scheduled Cello Joe, who's going to be here for an in-studio performance and a discussion on time and travel.
Cello.
So, and we've been traveling through time today, actually, with Strauss and this wonderful piece of music that many people, I'd say pretty much everybody in the civilized world has seen the movie 2001 Space Odyssey and are familiar with the sound and what the premise is about, and that's this how the computer gaining sentient status or abilities and actually turned against the humans. And we kind of see that playing in the world today. There's tons of stuff going on in robotics, but there's something I find very disturbing, and it's really happening. It's right in front of us. So like right now, and if you would, let's say it's 1981 and you went up to somebody, or let's say a guy walked up to you and said he was a combat veteran who was taken by the military, and they implanted a chip in his head, and they're like sending him voices and fucking with his mind, and they follow him everywhere. What would you have thought? Dude, you're fucked up. Like, take some meds. You're crazy. That's obviously not happening, because that's
maybe he took meds.
Or maybe he's on meds right now and he's tripping. Right. But you would say that there's something not quite right with the person. Then you would just give it very relevant. It's not like you say, oh my God, that's a travesty. We have to do something to help you. No, that doesn't happen. Why doesn't that happen? Is because society has been conditioned into believing what is real and what is not. And now we see out in the mainstream news headlines, they are beginning public experimental testing on implanting chips into the brains of veterans, combat veterans, that could theoretically help them recover memories or block memories, right? So once again, the veterans community is being used as guinea pigs, but they would not be ready for this unless they had decades and decades and decades of experiments behind it under their belt, because this is very advanced stuff. And so through the use of veterans, they're going to be making chip implants into the brain a regular thing. And and so what this is a part of is a larger movement within the scientific biology worlds of transhumanism. The movie's out with Johnny Depp about this, and it's about the migration of consciousness with machines and computers and us becoming one and becoming almost godlike. Having those abilities, having super strength, having your mind. I mean, Ray Kurzweil, author of The Singularity, is now a chief engineer with Google on transhumanism and the capturing of consciousness. And their objective is to take the human consciousness and to basically be able, through the use of computers, capture the essence of that consciousness and implant that into robots, implant that into something that preserves its essence for all of eternity, thus giving people eternal life. Now we compare that to what was going on in some of the concepts that were discussed in 2001 Space Odyssey and the music that we're talking about. It's a convergence of many ideas, but the big question is that where we're headed naturally? Are we going to become the slave race that when we're born, we're given a baby chip, just an RFID? They can start keeping track of us, and then when you hit puberty, instead of your bar mitzvah or your like as a Catholic, we went through communion, Holy Communion for the first time. Instead of going through the confirmations and all that, you get your implant. Religion is gone. Everybody worships, the aliens or something, and you just get your implant.
Some people are getting their implants.
It's already happening. Those implants. Yeah, the booby implant started a while ago. Now they're getting a little more sophisticated. But I mean, that is what's. And so I think the music that we're talking about today and some of the concepts we're seeing manifest themselves. So just be aware that the veil is slowly invisibilizing.
Hey, maybe there are already.
But tune in every Monday to the Scream for Peace show, so we can expand the Ubermensch in your consciousness for good, and to give us an idea what a perfect world would be like.
And when you listen to this Scream for Peace show, your superpowers are enhanced.